What is going on, everybody? It's Wednesday night. Welcome to episode 47 of the Ham Podcast. I am Helmke. I'm a fat boy, hence the term ham. Just playing, everybody, but yes, I am fat and I don't care, right? So, like I said, episode 47, it's a beautiful Wednesday night here in my location. You might see a little bit of a new poster hanging on the wall. That's right, little Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Love it. So I hope everybody's week has been well. Since the last time we have talked, I've had an amazing week. Amazing. Absolutely love it. Just to jump right in, right? My Longhorns. Oh, you know what? Let's start NFL. My Cowboys had a bye week, which I'm okay, right? It gave me a chance to maybe sleep in a little bit on a Sunday. But in college, my Longhorns came out and upset the number 13 Kansas State Wildcats, and it was just amazing. Absolutely loved it. And honestly, the final score, it shouldn't even have been that close. We had a horrible second half, but the first half, Mr. Bijan Robinson, our running back, with 161 rushing yards in the first half alone, finished with over 200 and something yards for the game. I believe he had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. I mean, the man was amazing. He is a man-child. Love it, right? College football had a crazy Saturday. Alabama lost. Thank you. I was so happy Alabama lost to LSU. Way to go, LSU. Georgia goes and beats Tennessee, right? So now we have our new top 25 college football playoff ranking that was released on Tuesday. And let me tell you, man, we're getting down to the wire, right? So right now you got Georgia at number 1, Ohio State number 2, Michigan number 3, and TCU number 4. So again, that's Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4. So if the playoffs started this week, those are your 4 playoffs teams. They would be Georgia versus TCU and Ohio State versus Michigan. But we're not done yet. We still got time, baby, and I can't wait. Let's talk about the rest of the top 25. Tennessee was number 1, right? Until they lose to Georgia last week. They dropped to number 5. So they're right outside that top 4. Oregon number 6, LSU jumps up to number 7, and lo and behold, right, they don't get talked about a whole lot, but USC number 8, and then right behind them, their rival, UCLA number 9, Alabama number 10 with 2 losses. I love it. And you know what? It's something crazy is going to happen. Hey, what up, Mike? Welcome into the Ham Podcast. How are we doing? Welcome in. Hey, Mike. So, Alabama's got 2 losses now. Then you got Ole Miss at 11, Clemson at 12, Utah 13, Penn State 14, North Carolina Tar Heels at 15, Tulane 16, NC State, which is North Carolina State, at 17, and then my Longhorns, Hook 'em Horns, at number 18. We went from 24 to 18 by stunning number 13, Kansas State, and then you got Liberty at 19, Notre Dame at 20, Illinois 21, and Notre Dame moved up to 20 because they upset Clemson. So that was a big win. UCF 22, Kansas State drops all the way from 13 to 23, Washington 24, and then Florida State 25. So college football, there was a huge shakeup like we talked about, right? And Alabama's sitting at number 10. And something crazy is going to have to happen, right, for Alabama to sneak their way back in to the college football playoffs. One of the things that I hope does happen is this week my Longhorns play TCU. Like we talked about, the aforementioned TCU's ranked number 4 in the nation now. So the Longhorns got their work cut out for them. Now the game is in Austin, so we're the home team, right? So that's a good thing. And we're actually slightly favored to beat TCU, which is surprising. But we can definitely do it. If our offense plays the way they're supposed to, we feed the ball to Bijan. Ewers goes out and delivers the ball. Our defense has been playing stellar with Overshawn at linebacker. Our secondary is playing well. Our defensive line is stout. I'm excited to see this game. 6:30 Saturday night. Number 18 Texas versus number 4 TCU. And here's the thing. Even if Texas beats TCU, Alabama still has to play Georgia. And I think Georgia beats them this year again. So I'm thinking Alabama finishes the season with 3 losses. So I'm looking forward to seeing Alabama just plummet. I'm tired of Alabama, tired of Nick Saban. Yes, hey, all the credit in the world. You built a fantastic dynasty down in Alabama, but every dynasty has to come to an end, and it is time for you all to fall apart. So Alabama, I hope you all can suck it, and I hope that we can get some new blood in there, like Georgia, like, Ohio State's always been in there, but teams like Texas or TCU or, somebody different, right? Michigan, I'd like to see Michigan in there. So tell me what you think, though. Who is your top 4 for college football? I actually agree with the 4 that are in there. Of course, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. I agree with those 4. But definitely looking forward to my Longhorns playing TCU this week. Can't wait. It should be a hell of a game. So let's jump in here. All right, so you know me. I'm a man of many talents, and I love to study all kinds of things. And I consider myself a bit of a scholar, if you would, right? A bit of a scholar. But one of my fascinations has always been the Titanic, right? And not just the Titanic, but the area in which it had its shipwreck, right? Where it hit the glacier, it sunk, all that stuff. And not because of the people passing, rest in peace, of course. But it's always been, fascination of mine, like, what's still under there, stuff like that, right? So one of the things that many years ago that they discovered, I believe it was like 20 years ago, 26 years, is that they dropped a sonar down there, and blimps of stuff started popping up on the sonar, right? So if you're familiar with sonar technology, what it does is it scans either underground or underwater, something like that. And if there is some type of disturbance in the ground, it will give you kind of a blimp in the sonar reading, right? So there was blimps. They hadn't really got down there. They hadn't really been able to see this till about a year ago, about recently, right? So divers uncover a surprising discovery near the Titanic shipwreck. So it's about 4,000 meters, right? It's about 4,000 meters down, which is about 13,000 feet, okay, under the ocean. Now, what they discovered were rock-like formations. Basically, they discovered a reef, all right? So out in the middle of nowhere, they've discovered a reef that actually is supporting fish life, right? It's supporting, they found lobsters, they found coral, they found sponges, and it's very fascinating because one of the things that I forget the term, right? But under, biologists that study the water and stuff like that, the sea life, one of the things they've always wondered is how far can, certain sea life go out, like coral, like sponge life, stuff like that. And they've always kind of believed that it doesn't go out very far, doesn't live long enough. Well, now here in the middle of nowhere in the ocean, and then about 13,000 feet down, they've got a random reef that is absolutely supporting life, and life is thriving down there. He says, my bad, Mike says, couldn't hear, had to reboot the cortex processor and adjust the ocular mechanism and lock onto the correct frequency of the stream. Well, welcome, Mike. Welcome. Did you check your flux capacitor? Always make sure you check the flux capacitor first, because time and time again, I think it's the same thing for me, where I've got to adjust the ocular, and it turns out it was the flux capacitor. Or just fix it. There it is. There. We always go too far, right? And it turns out it was just a fucking speaker. Kudos to you, Mike. Kudos to you. Love it. Well, I'm glad you can hear me now. So, so about 13,000 feet down, they find this coral, this reef that's thriving, supporting fish life, supporting, it's got lobsters. And apparently the life that's down there, the fish, are slightly different than the fish that are normally in other fish life. So it's quite interesting, right? They say it's slightly different. It tastes different. I don't know if they said it tastes different. I'm saying it tastes different because I would have already caught a lobster and tried it. But that's just me, right? Because I'm a fat boy, like I mentioned, which is why this is called the Ham Podcast once again. Because I'm a fat boy and we're going by the Ham Podcast. Love it. Real quick before we move on, if you haven't followed us on Instagram yet, go to _H_A_M_podcast, or you can go to our Twitter, _ham_podcast. You can also visit our YouTube page. We play all our shows on replay on YouTube, the Ham Podcast. And that's right, we are certified on YouTube. We've got our own channel, so go check it out. It's amazing. We're only getting bigger, so jump on the train now while there's still some room. But let's move on, right? We've talked Titanic, we've talked reefs, we've talked, sponges and coral and lobster thriving. Let's talk about something that's not thriving, something that may be sinking, and that's the Washington Commanders of the NFL. As it came out, the owner is considering selling the Commanders. Apparently, he's already reached out to a particular bank, service that's going to help him sell. Now, a group of superpowers, I would say, almost like a planet, like a Captain Planet super group is coming together. And the main one is Jeff. What's going on, James? F1218, what's up, brother? So the main one is Jeff Bezos, right? He's leading the group. Behind him is Jay-Z, and now it's come out that Matthew McConaughey. So we're talking Jeff Bezos, billionaire, Jay-Z, billionaire, Matthew McConaughey, multi-millionaire, are teaming up to buy the Washington Commanders. As a Cowboys fan, right? As a fan of a team who's in the NFC East, that makes me a little nervous. Right? People are like, why? They're not going to play, right? They can't play on the field and this and that. And they can only, give players so much. But here's the thing. In the NFL, right? Yeah, you can only pay so much. But if you go over, all you got to do is pay a luxury tax, right? Your team pays a luxury tax. You don't think Jeff Bezos has money on money on money, right? And then these players admire Jay-Z. That's a hero of theirs. He's a rap legend. Of course they'd love to play for Jay-Z. And then you throw in somebody like Matthew McConaughey, who's just the coolest guy coming out of Texas. All right. That's my best impression. That's all I got. Don't ask me to do it again. But, Matthew McConaughey, coolest guy, can probably get these guys all kinds of ass that they're not even getting now. And they already get ass, but he can introduce them to a new level of ass, right? Tell me they wouldn't want to go to Washington and play a lot of these top stars, right? And then Bezos sending people up to space. He's already sent Michael Strahan to orbit the planet. Come on. I don't want players to be like, hey, could you imagine if all of a sudden you've got like Justin Herbert and who's one of the best receivers, Jefferson from the Vikings, right? Going to Jeff Bezos and be like, hey, man, we'll sign 2 or 3 years with you if you send us up to space. As a Cowboys fan, that would suck. I don't want the best players to join the Washington Commanders. Jesus. Jerry Jones, you better step your game up. You better make a spaceship or start letting these dudes use your yacht, which is a monster of a yacht, right? But yeah, it makes me a little nervous. But hey, at the same time, I think that'd be cool to get Dan Snyder out of the NFL. I mean, from what I hear, it's been nothing but bad stuff with Dan Snyder since he's bought Washington, with all the scandals, money scandals about using the cheerleaders basically as prostitution, right? Not necessarily prostitution, but using them as leverage. He'd bring in these money guys and be like, hey, let me introduce you to so-and-so, and it's a cheerleader, and he'd make them sleep with these guys so that they could get money from them. All kinds of crazy news has come out about Dan Snyder and the Redskins. So I think it would be best to get him out of there. But again, if it is Jeff Bezos, Jay-Z, and Matthew McConaughey that are going to be taking over that team as a group of owners, wow, that's a power group right there. And of course with Jay-Z, Beyonce follows, right? She's right there. Matthew McConaughey brings in Hollywood superstars. And then what I don't like is he's a Longhorn, right? Matthew McConaughey's a Longhorn. I'm a Longhorn fan. I don't want him taking the best Longhorns to Washington. No, for what? They deserve to stay in Texas. Speaking of NFL though, right? Let's move on to my Cowboys. They are a part of the OBJ. If you are unfamiliar about those three initials, I'm talking Odell Beckham Jr. Cowboys are a part of the sweepstakes. Several teams want Odell Beckham. By the end of this week, apparently he's supposed to be cleared to practice from his injury that he suffered at the end of last season in the playoffs with the Rams, and they're hoping that he can play by December. Now, going into playoff time, end of season playoff time, he will be an asset for any team that's going to be in the playoffs, right? A huge asset, especially for my Cowboys, because at this time, as good as CeeDee Lamb has kind of been, yes, he hasn't shown that he's number one potential yet, right? And I think we might have thrown him in a little too quick in his second, third year, right? To be a number one, he hasn't shown that he can be yet. Obviously, it shows that Amari Cooper was the number one the last couple years. So to have somebody like Odell Beckham that can kind of take that pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and also be a safety net for Dak Prescott. Because let's be honest, as long as you get it anywhere close to Odell Beckham, he will go up and get the ball. Whether it's with two hands, whether it's with one hand, if you get it close, he generally comes down with it. And as we've seen, Dak is not always the most accurate. So I think it would be great. And then also going into the playoffs, right? If we should make playoffs, if we continue playing the way we're playing and we make playoffs, I think it'll also be great to have an extra weapon for the Cowboys, right? Now, we should be getting James Washington back, the receiver that we picked up during the offseason from Pittsburgh. That'll help, right? Dalton Schultz has been kind of healthy off and on, but our two rookie tight ends have played well, Hendershot and Ferguson. They played well. Our defense is playing lights out. And, of course, who I consider Defensive Player of the Year, Micah Parsons, has played lights out. Mike, yes, playoffs. We're talking playoffs? I don't know if anybody here is old enough to remember that. Former Indianapolis Colts coach. But, yeah, playoffs? Yes, Cowboys should make playoffs. I'm not saying we're going to win the NFC East. We have some work to do because, unfortunately, Philadelphia, I don't even want to say their full name. They're undefeated still. They're 8-0, right? We're right behind them in second. And, hell, the Giants have the same record as us. The only reason we're in second is because we beat the Giants earlier this year. So, as of right now, if the playoffs were to start, 3 NFC East teams would be in the playoffs. Philly, Cowboys, and the Giants, which is just astonishing when everybody said coming into the season that the NFC East was by far the worst division in NFL football this year coming into the season. And actually, it's turned out to be the best and the toughest division. So kudos to all the teams in the NFC East, but really, no. Philly, I need you to suck again. Giants, Saquon, go back to getting injured. Nothing serious, not career ending. But, go back to being hurt and missing games. I don't need you guys playing well, especially this late in the season. I need my Cowboys to go and do what they do. So what does make me nervous, though, as the power rankings have come out, they've actually got Dallas ranked 4th in the power rankings. And that's probably in large part to our defense, right? So right now they've got Philly 1, they've got Buffalo 2, and then I believe they've got, I forget who 3 was. And then the Cowboys 4. Actually, no, yeah, Cowboys 4. I forget who 3 was, but I don't know if we're the 4th best team in the league right now. Even me being a huge Cowboys fan, I love my Cowboys. I'm ride or die. And yes, we're playing well, but I don't know if I would consider us the 4th best team in the league. But I will say this. We were talking about the Odell Beckham Jr. sweepstakes. Right now, Dallas is in the running. He's expressed some wanting to be with us, right? Some feelings about wanting to play with us. Buffalo's in the running. The Giants are in the running. Surprisingly, he said he wouldn't mind going back to the Giants. And then also, who was the other one? It was Buffalo, Cowboys, Giants, and another playoff team. I forget who it was. Or potential playoff team. But Micah Parsons has already started tweeting, "Oh, OBJ, we'd love to have you here." OBJ tweeted him back, "You know, my daddy's family's down there. Wherever I go, you know, I'm gonna turn up the rest of the season." And now Ezekiel Elliott's tweeting, you know, "Come on over, OBJ. We're ready to accept you. We want you." Cowboys are pushing for him. We know we're gonna have to pay though, right? Jerry Jones knows he's gonna have to dish out some money. OBJ's also came out and said that wherever he signs this year, he doesn't want it to be just for the rest of the season or one more year. He wants to do a 2 or 3 year contract. He said he's tired of living out of a suitcase. He wants to basically plant some roots. Of course, he's got his family now, right? So I'm sure he wants to settle down for his family. So if the Cowboys do get him, it looks like we'll be getting him, or whatever team does, for 2 to 3 years, which I'm okay with, right? I'd like to ride on this sunset, you know, a couple more years, 2-3 years with OBJ, Dak, Zeke, Tony Pollard. Our defense is young. We should keep them together with Diggs and Micah. Of course, DeMarcus Lawrence isn't young, but he's still playing well. The other linebacker, our rookie this year, playing lights out when he gets in the game. So I'd love to have OBJ join the Cowboys, and I thought I'd never say that, but he's definitely matured, so I would love to have him. It's just, I think it's a smart decision for the Cowboys to go and pick him up. I really do. Speaking of smart decisions, as a parent, right? As a parent, I've always, you know, said, you know, growing up, or as a parent, should I say, as my kids growing up, like, hey, I'd love for my son to go to a nice college, right? And what do we consider nice college, right? We're talking Ivy League, right? We're talking Yale, Harvard. We're talking Cornell, right? We're talking some nice schools. Maybe my son's not going Ivy League, right? But one of the things that's come out is, so of course everybody knows that, you know, Ivy League is a great school to go to, right? It's an amazing school. Amazing. Any Ivy League school is amazing. But recently, it turns out that Cornell University has suspended all fraternity parties and social events after allegations of sexual assault and drug-laced drinks, right? So after doing my research, right, because I believe in doing research, let me go ahead and paste the article here in the chat. There you go. So after doing my research and reading, it turns out what's happening is there's an off-campus kind of like bar or something that is associated with the fraternities, where within the last 2 months, September, October, November, 3 months, people have expressed that they barely drank anything, but yet they were completely just out of it. Turns out that there is some of the drinks that are being laced, and now what makes it even more serious is it's come out, one person has come out and said that after drinking one of those drinks, after drinking a drink, just one drink, they were kind of, you know, didn't know what was going on, and they were sexually assaulted sometime between the morning time of 2:30 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. So, which is not good, right? I don't care, you know, what you go to college for, whether it's to learn, play sports, party. There's no reason to sexually assault anybody anytime, especially when everybody's having a good time, right? So, the fraternities, right, the internal fraternities came together and actually decided on their own that they were going to suspend all parties and social activities until they can figure out what's going on, right? Who's lacing these drinks, and they can get to the bottom of it. Ithaca police are already investigating it. So it's very unfortunate, right? Because yes, of course you go to college to learn or whatever, but you also go to live life, and you go to have fun and party, and you get to explore your sexuality, and you get to explore who you are as a person. And the last thing you want to have to worry about is my drink laced, right? Did Bill Cosby drop something in it? I'm sorry, I couldn't help it, right? Did Bill Cosby put something in my drink, right? Shout out to Bill, by the way. Jello pudding, baby, I love it. Yeah, it's unfortunate that something's like that happening. It's it's never a good thing, right? But the good thing is it seems like it's not the fraternities that are doing it. So it could be one of the kids, who knows, from the fraternity, and he doesn't want to come out and say it, of course, because he'll go to jail. But hopefully they can find out which dumbass is doing this, or dumbasses are doing this, because it definitely needs to be stopped and it needs to get under control. Something like that does not need to be happening. It's very unfortunate that it is. All right, now let's go to some good news, right? If you remember, about maybe 10 episodes back, 12 episodes back, we've been talking about Cain Valesquez a couple times, right? Just to kind of recap, Cain Valesquez has been in jail for about 8 months now. He was locked up for shooting at somebody, and the person he was shooting at, he missed, and he ended up shooting their stepdad. The reason he was shooting at that person is that person was accused of, and arrested, right, of molesting his, at the time, I believe, 4-year-old son at a daycare. 4 or 6-year-old. And it went on for some time. The kid was already like 8 or 9, something like that. And it was still going on till finally the kid kind of spoke up and was like, hey, this is happening. So they turned the man in, they arrested him, but then they released him, right? They released him on bail. When he got released on bail, Cain found out he got released on bail. And like any father would, he took matters into his own hand, right? And I say in any father because that's our job as a father. Our job as a father is to protect our spouse, and if we have kids, to protect our kids at any cost. Now, I have a son, and if I had found out that somebody was abusing my son, whether it was sexually, whatever, and yes, I would definitely have either tried to shoot the guy, I would have tried to beat the guy up, whatever it is, I would have definitely reacted very similar to the way Cain did. Well, they got Cain, right? He didn't try to run or anything. You know, cops showed up, they arrested him. He had been locked up, and the judge that he had previously kept denying him bail, would not allow him to bail out, said that he was a threat to the community and this and that. And it was a woman judge, right? And not that that has any significance, I don't know, but it was a woman judge. Well, recently he got a new judge appointed, and it was a male judge. And this male judge has granted him bail, $1 million bail, and it's going to go to trial, of course, the case. Now, one of the things they're going to try to put on Cain is premeditated murder, along with the other charges, right? Firing the shit, now I can't talk, right? Firing out of a vehicle, all that kind of stuff, right? But the most serious one is going to be, they're going to try to charge him with premeditated murder. They're going to try to charge Cain Valesquez. So, well, they are charging him. They're going to try to convict him of it, right? But he was finally released from jail after 8 months. He got to, reunite with his family. Kudos to Cain, man, for sticking it out, right? Of course, kudos to Cain for standing up for his family and going after the guy who molested his son, right? Like any father would, stood up for his family, tried to protect him at any cost. Now, with the charges that are being brought against him, it's going to be tough. Cain's going to need a damn good lawyer to get him out of this one, at least to keep him out of jail, maybe probation at home, something like that. But the good news is he has been released after 8 months. So Cain, if you're watching, somebody get this out to him. Welcome home. Glad to see you're back with your family, your kids. I'm sure your kids are ecstatic. Your wife's ecstatic to have you back in the house. I hope you beat the case, man. Hope you don't have to do any real prison time. You did what any father would have done. So, good luck to you, Cain. Now, before we talk more MMA, right? Because we're going to preview UFC 281 for this weekend. Good news, not good news, right? Because I didn't win. There was a Powerball winner of $2.4 billion. That son of a bitch came from, that person, whoever they were, came from California. One ticket so far, and they have not turned it in. That's the crazy part. The person that won, it's from a area of East Los Angeles. They matched all 6 numbers on Monday night's record drawing of $2.4 billion, but they have not turned the ticket in. The store owner who store sold the winning ticket. He got $1 million check for selling the ticket. You know, kudos to him too. Hey, good for you. Your store threw out the winning ticket. You win $1 million. But very surprising that they have not turned in the ticket. One more thing about UFC, a little bit more combat sports. It was brought to my attention. Y'all seen him in here before. Fancy. He's been in here commenting at times. He wanted me to make sure that people knew that Dana White was being a chump, because Dana White has banned, yes, Dana White has banned Jake Paul from all UFC events. Dana White has officially said he's had enough. He will not allow Jake Paul to attend any UFC events. Now, in case you're unaware, Jake Paul and Dana White has had this kind of feud back and forth. Jake Paul's always kind of said Dana White doesn't pay his fighters enough. He doesn't provide health care, stuff like that. Dana White's like, you don't know what I pay my fighters. You don't know what I provide my fighters. And then at one of the events, apparently Jake Paul and Dana White's son, his oldest son who's in college, got into a verbal altercation. So, you know, like any good son, he's going to stand up for his father. So he had some words for Jake Paul. And then at another UFC event, Jake Paul and Daniel Cormier got into a verbal altercation. And so Dana White has finally said, that's enough. You're not allowed at any UFC event anymore. You are banned. And quite frankly, I'm glad. I've got only, like, look, Jake Paul's a chump. All right. I think he's a chump. Yes, you know, everybody talks about his little boxing career, 6-0, whatever he is. But let's look at who he's fought, right? Nate Robinson. He's fought Ben Askren, a ex-UFC fighter who has no stand-up whatsoever, who is just a wrestler. Then he fought Tyron Woodley, where in the first fight, Woodley, you can tell, obviously, Papa Dallas says I'm a hater. Papa Dallas is a Jake Paul fan. But you know, in the first fight against Tyron Woodley wobbles him and then doesn't follow it up. Very, very sketchy. Second fight, it's a one-punch knockout against Tyron Woodley for Jake Paul. Very odd, right? It's crazy, whatever. Then he's supposed to fight Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury's camp comes out and says he wants us to sign a contract where it's fixed. We're not going to do it. He ends up fighting. He's supposed to fight Hasim Rahman Jr. That fight falls through because Rahman says that the contract was just garbage, that Paul put in all these stipulations. And then he ends up fighting a 46-year-old Anderson Silva, who, by the way, gave Jake Paul problems. At 46 years of age, went 8 fucking rounds with Jake Paul. 8 rounds with the younger man. And actually landed some really good punches on Jake Paul. Yes, Anderson got knocked down with a punch. But at 46 years old, what do you expect? He's 46 years old, mate. Like, come on. But he took Jake Paul the distance, lost the decision. So what real legitimate boxer has Jake Paul fought? He hasn't. He hasn't fought a boxer, right? And not just any boxer. He hasn't fought a legitimate boxer. He's called out Canelo, knowing Canelo will not take that fight because it's a no-win situation. Canelo goes out there and does what he's supposed to do, which is knock Jake Paul out. People are going to say that's exactly what was supposed to happen. If he goes out there and for any reasons loses the fight, which I don't think would happen, but did, that's pretty much the end of his career. So it's a no-win situation for Canelo until Jake can prove that he can beat real boxers. Then maybe Canelo will do something. But hey, if Jake really wants it, man, go call out some of these other guys, man. You know, go call out, you know, some of these boxers that are, you know, 10-0, 12-0, right? That are close in your range of 6-0. And let's see what happens. But he doesn't. He handpicks his fights. And this last fight, it's come out that he only sold about 200 to 300,000 pay-per-views, which means he lost a lot of money. And that is him coming out and saying that, like, yeah, my pay-per-view did not do well against Anderson Silva. I lost millions. That's because people are tired of seeing you fight underqualified boxers. If you want to be taken fucking serious, Jake, look me in the eyes. You want to be taken serious, fight a real boxer. A boxer who can actually go out there and box. Anderson Silva was a kickboxer / jiu-jitsu guy, right? Woodley was a wrestler. Ben Askren was a wrestler. Nate Robinson was a basketball player. Go fight a real boxer. We'll see. We'll see what happens, right? We'll fucking see. Speaking of boxing, I'm a boxing fan, right? I love the heavyweight division right now. It's amazing. You got, Tyson Fury, the champ. You got Alexander Usyk, the other champ. You've got Anthony Joshua waiting in the wings. You got Andy Ruiz. You've got Deontay Wilder, who just won his last fight. Well, now the WBC has ordered Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz to fight as kind of a mandatory eliminator, right? To determine who's going to fight Tyson Fury next. And let me tell you something. That's a hell of a fight. Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz is a hell of a fight. I think Andy Ruiz goes out there and beats Deontay Wilder. That's just me. Yes, Deontay Wilder punches till this day, punches extremely hard. But I think Ruiz can do similar to what Tyson Fury did, which is outbox him and even hurt him, right? We've seen Ruiz with good punching power. He basically TKO'd Anthony Joshua. He knocked down, what's his name? I can't even remember his name in his last fight, right? He knocked him down. I mean, Ruiz has real power, but he also has really good boxing skills. So I think that's a fight that... and Ruiz has a chin. He's got a hell of a chin. So even if Deontay lands on him, I think Ruiz can take that punch, right? Even maybe get knocked down and get back up and then deliver it like he did against Joshua. So it'll be very interesting, right? Very, very interesting to see what comes out of that fight. I tell you what, I will watch it. I will definitely watch that fight. Now, let's get to the reason we are all here tonight. UFC 281 is this weekend, right? UFC 281 is this weekend. Huge card, main event, Adesanya versus Pereira. Co-main event, champion Carlos Esparza versus Weili Zhang. It's going to be an amazing fight. Let's take a look, right? So let's see here. Oh, wrong one. That is talking about the Cornell. Yeah, look at John Helmke messing stuff up. All right, so here we go. So UFC 281, of course, we're going to start with the prelims, right? So let's jump right in. First fight of the night of the prelims, you've got Carlos Ulberg versus Nicole Negumereanu, which Carlos Ulberg is a training partner of course, the champ Israel Adesanya. So you see it there, right? Ulberg 7-1 versus 13-1 Nicole. Gonna be a good fight. Now, if you see, both guys like to finish by KO or TKO. 50% for Ulberg, 62% for Nicole. Neither guy really likes to go the distance, right? Both average fight time is under the 15-minute mark. It's going to be a tremendous fight. I'm actually taking Carlos in this fight. I think he keeps distance very well. Yeah, I think Carlos wins that fight. Now, we move on to the next one, right? Julio Arce versus Montel Jackson. I'll be honest, this may be the boring fight of the night. As you can see, neither guy's known for their KO, TKO power or their submissions, but both of them are decision guys, right? Arce, 47% of his wins are by decision. 82% of Jackson's wins are by decision. This may be that fight where you want to go get something to drink, maybe re-up on your plate. But I'm going to take Julio Arce in that fight. This next one, this could be a sneaky fight of the night, right? Sneaky one. You got Michael Trizano versus Sungwoo Choi. Okay, Trizano 10-3, former Ultimate Fighter champion. You got Choi, who's 10-5. They're both coming off a loss, right? But you see, they're fighting at 145. Choi, they're both big for 145. Trizano 5'11", Choi 6 foot. Now here's what I love, right? Choi, 60% of his wins come by knockout, 20% by Trizano submissions. Neither guy's really strong. Choi 0%, Trezano 20, although he does have sneaky submissions. And then decision, Trezano usually wins 60%, Choi by 40, but I'm taking Choi by TKO. I think Choi comes out and TKO's Trezano. Can't wait for that fight, though. I think that's going to be a sneaky good fight. And then my girl's fighting, Carolina Kovalevich. Right, we got Carolina Kovalevich at 14-7. She's fighting who's a very good up-and-coming striker out of Mexico. I'm sorry, out of Argentina, Silvana Gomez Juarez. Right, she's 7-4. Both coming off wins. Right now, here's where I get nervous for my girl Carolina. Now, in her last win, yes, it was by TKO. Good for her. But as you can see, Gomez Juarez, 64% of her wins have been by KO TKO, while 69% of Carolina's wins have been by decision. But I think Carolina comes out. She looked amazing in her last fight, which is under the American Top Team now. She trains with the American Top Team. She's been training with your former champion Joanna Jacek. So I think she comes out and gets the win again. But I think this one is going to be by decision. But really looking forward to that fight. Anytime Carolina fights on the card, I love it. Now, next one, Matt Frevola versus Otman Azatir, right? Frevola's a grinder. Matt Frevola goes out there and grinds. But as you can see, 77% of Otman's wins are by KO, TKO, while 44% of Frevola's are by decision, 33% by submission. I think Otman comes out and knocks out Frevola. Yeah, I'm taking Otman in that fight. So I think that Otman just comes out and steamrolls him, to be honest. Those are the early prelims. Now, let's go to the main prelims. First fight of the main prelims. This one's going to be interesting, right? You got Andre Petroski versus Wellington Thurman. Both good, young, up-and-coming fighters. Andre Petroski, of course, coming out of the Ultimate Fighter, 8-2. Thurman, 18-5. Both of their last fights, they're coming off of wins. Both fighting at 185, man. Now, here's the thing, right? Petroski, KO, TKO, 50% of his wins come by that. Submission, both guys are high in submission. 50% of Petroski's are by submission, 41% by Thurman. Now, honestly, Andre Petroski's a heavy, he likes to wrestle, but like any good wrestler in the UFC, he's got that big overhand. So I'm actually going to take Andre Petroski to win this fight. I think he can overwhelm Thurman, tire him out, and get the win. I'd say maybe like late second, early third, he pulls it out. And now we got Meatball, Molly McCann on the prelims. We got Molly McCann, right, versus Erin Blanchfield. Now, of course, everybody knows Molly McCann, right? I mean, she's struck gold, right? The girl, everybody loves her attitude. She's I mean, with a name like Meatball, how can you not love her, right? She comes out, she fights, she looks to strike, she looks to knock you out. Of course, she's best friends with Patty Pimblett, Patty the Baddie, right? Patty the Baddie, yep. So Molly McCann, she stays after her fights and drinks, amazing. Now, of course, you see Molly McCann, 46% of her wins by knockout, KO, 22 for Blanche. Blanche usually wins by decision. I'm taking Molly McCann to win by TKO. Yeah, TKO by, I say second round, Molly McCann wins. I'm going for Molly McCann. Now, this one's a good fight right here. Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann. Dominic Reyes is a guy that at one point fought John Jones for the light heavyweight title. A lot of people thought he won that fight, including myself. Now, Ryan Spann's, he's on the up and coming. Dominic Reyes has kind of been sliding. And even when I say kind of been sliding, he's still 12-3. Right, I believe he was undefeated when he fought John Jones, lost to John, then he lost his next two fights, one to Jan Blachowicz, and the third fight I don't remember who he lost to, but he's coming in as the favorite, minus 215. Both guys, of course, love to throw. 58% of Dominic Reyes' wins have come by KO, TKO. 60% of Ryan's Spann's wins have come by submission, but that's because he usually hurts the guy on the feet and then capitalizes with the submission. Neither guy's a decision guy, and I don't see this one going to decision either. I'd like to see Dominic Reyes bounce back with the win. I think if he loses this fight, he may be out of the UFC because that's 4 fights in a row that he would have lost. So I think this is a must win for Dominic Reyes. I'm going to take Dominic Reyes. I'm taking Dominic Reyes. That's my decision. Dominic Reyes. Now, here we go. Another guy that trains with the champ, Israel Adesanya, Brad Riddell, is fighting Renato Moicano. Moicano's coming off a loss, so is Riddell, but both guys are very good. Riddell likes to grind you out, right? He's a guy that grinds. I mean, yes, it says 50% KO, TKO, but that's usually because he tires guys out. You know, he grounds and pounds them. No submissions for Riddell, 56% by Moicano of submissions. Now, it says 0 by KO, TKO, and that's because usually he wobbles the guy on the feet, he hurts him with punches or kicks, and then he submits him. So it's not that he can't hurt guys. It's just that he usually finishes them off with submission. And so I don't see this one going the distance. I think, you know what? I think I see Moicano winning this fight. I've got Moicano winning by submission in this fight. So I'm taking Renato Moicano. Hell yeah. Now for the main card. Opening the main card, we got another guy who trains out of City Kickboxing with Oberg and Riddell and Adesanya, Dan the Hangman Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. Dan's been on a little bit of a slide, right? No doubt about it. 21-12, 13-2 from Puelles. They're kind of opposite ends, right? While Dan Hooker's been on a little bit of a slide, Claudio's been climbing as a young up-and-coming fighter. Now, you can see 48% of Dan's wins are by KO, TKO, man. 33% by submission, not really a decision guy. While Claudio's 54% of his wins are by submission. So this is one of those things where Dan's going to have to use his reach, right? He's going to have to. You see he's got a 75-inch to 72, so he's got a 3-inch reach. But then, you know, he's got a 2.5-inch reach with the legs. So I think he uses leg kicks, right? Inside, outside, you know, get Claudio to drop his hands and then go for a head kick. But of course, it's always dangerous to throw to a guy who wants to take you down and submit you, because if he takes you down, it could be very. But I'm going to take Dan Hangman Hooker. I think he gets the job done. Now, a legend. This is his last fight of his career in the UFC. Frankie the Answer Edgar. If you are a UFC fan, a real UFC fan, you know who the fuck Frankie Edgar is. He's the answer. He's beat guys like BJ Penn twice, Benson Henderson. He's beat, the who's who, former lightweight champ. I believe he defended his belt like 3-4 times. Then he dropped down to featherweight, fought for, almost had a chance to win. He's the only guy or not the only guy. He's one of the few people that have wins in 3 different weight classes. 155, one at 145, and he's also got wins at 135. So here he is finishing his career off at 135 pounds against the up-and-coming Chris Gutierrez. Now, here's my thing. I love Frankie Edgar. One of my favorite fighters of all time. But as of late, he's shown that chin is suspect, right? And that's something that hasn't been an issue for him when he was younger. He had a really good chin. But he's also been in a lot of wars, right? You think of the wars with BJ, with why can't I remember his name all of a sudden? I had his name a second ago. But he's been in a lot of wars. Gray Maynard. He's been in a lot of wars, right? Gray Maynard, BJ Penn. You're talking Benson Henderson. He's fought the who's who of lower weight classes, right? Chad Mendes, all these guys, right? He's fought I can't remember his name now. Damn it. See, I'm messing up here. But fought the who's who. And his chin has recently been falling apart. While Chris Gutierrez, his striking is good, man. 50% of his wins by KO, TKO. But they're fighting in New York, which is in Frankie Edgar's backyard, right? And this is his last fight. And then watching the press conference today, when they squared these guys off, Chris Gutierrez told him something. I'm waiting to see the embedded tomorrow, because Chris Gutierrez tells him something and Frankie goes, what? And Chris tells him again, and he goes, yeah, but don't worry about it. And Frankie goes, oh, yeah? Okay. All right. Cool. I'll see you Saturday. It pissed off Frankie, whatever Gutierrez said. And a motivated, pissed off Frankie Edgar in his last fight, I think he goes out and gets the win by decision. So I'm taking the answer. So far, I've taken Dan Hooker, and now I'm taking Frankie Edgar. Now, here it is. To me, this is fight of the night. You got Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Iron Michael Chandler. Now, since Michael Chandler's come to the UFC from Bellator, he has been in nothing but fucking bangers, right? He fought Dan Hooker in his first fight, knocked out Dan Hooker in the first round. Then he goes out and I forget who he fought. I think he fought, I forget who he fought, but he lost in a banger, right? Or that's who he fought. He fought Charles Oliveira, knocked down Oliveira towards the end of the first round, almost had him finished. Bell rings, come out in the second round. Oliveira ends up TKOing him, right? Fights Tony Ferguson. We all seen the highlight. Hits him with that ugly front kick to the chin. Knocks out Tony Ferguson cold, right? 23-7 versus 28-7. Poirier's coming off the loss. Chandler's coming off the win against Ferguson. Then you got, here it is, right? 48% of Chandler's wins, KO, TKO. 54 of Poirier's KO, TKO. Both 20 to 30% in submissions. Both guys low 20s in decision. You can see they both like to finish the fight before the 15 minutes. Now, this is a 15-minute fight. That's the important thing to think about this. This is a 15-minute fight. So that means they don't really have to save their energy, right? They can come out and start banging. Now, I'm curious to see if Chandler uses his wrestling a little bit in this fight. Now, don't get me wrong. Dustin Poirier's jiu-jitsu is sneaky, right? It's sneaky good. He can pull out submissions from top and bottom. But Michael Chandler, if Charles Oliveira couldn't submit him, I don't see Poirier being able to submit him, but you never know. I'm actually taking Michael Chandler to win this fight. And here's where it gets crazy, right? I'm taking him to win by decision. Now, it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a banger. They're going to throw. They're going to hurt each other. Both guys are going to be bloody. That's how I picture it. But I picture Chandler winning by decision. I think he can put the pace on Poirier. Now, Poirier's boxing is really good. But if Chandler needs to, he can go for that ace in his back pocket, which is wrestling. And he hasn't really used it in the UFC. So I'm taking Michael Chandler to win by decision. Now we've got our co-main event. At the press conference today, Carla Esparza got booed so bad. Everybody in the crowd was booing Carla. I don't think I heard one person cheering for her. She's a boring fighter, right? Nothing exciting about Carla Esparza. And I'm not even just talking about her last fight where she beat Rose with like 5 strikes, right? She's a boring fighter. There's nothing exciting about her. And then you got Zhang Weili, right, who comes out and brings it every fight, right? She's strong, she's big. There's a video that surfaced about 2-3 days ago where she's at the UFC PI and she lifts up Francis Ngannou. Not just off his team, I'm talking lifts him up over her shoulder. And Francis Ngannou goes, I'm weighing 293 pounds right now. She picked me up with no problem. The woman is strong, right? So this is for Esparza's belt. Obviously, you see Zhang likes to come out and KO, TKO 50%. 60% of Carla's wins are by decision. I think Zhang comes out here and puts it on Carla, and I think she beats Carla. I really do. I think she knocks her out. TKO knocks out by the second round. I'm taking Zhang. Now the main event. I'm stoked. Let's talk about it, right? Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. There's a backstory to this fight. These two guys have fought each other 2 times prior to this, but in kickboxing. So the first time they fought in kickboxing was in China. It went to the decision. Everybody thought that Adesanya won, including myself. I went and watched this fight on YouTube. I thought Adesanya won the first fight, but the judges gave it to Pereira. Second time they fought was in Brazil, Alex Pereira's home country, and he caught Adesanya with that crazy left hand, man. He's got crazy power in it and ends up knocking Adesanya out. More than just a TKO. Yeah, Adesanya wasn't asleep, but he couldn't stand up either. So definitely a knockout. But he knocks out Adesanya, and then Adesanya comes to MMA, goes on a tear, and then Pereira, not too long after that, comes to MMA. 6-1 versus 23-1, and the one loss that Adesanya has is to Jan Blachowicz, was at light heavyweight, where he moved up from middleweight just to challenge, right? Look, everybody talks about the left hand of Pereira, right? Everybody does. And yes, it's an ugly left hand, man. And look at these guys. 83% of Pereira's wins are by KO or TKO. 68% of Adesanya's. Neither guy has a submission victory in MMA. And only 32% of Adesanya's by decision, 17 from Pereira. Now, obviously, Adesanya has the experience in MMA. Today, there was an article that came out that Faraz Zahabi, MMA trainer, right, former trainer of George St. Pierre, came out and he said, you know, Adesanya has always been masterful in his fights. He has good striking. He has great striking. He said great striking. You know, he's smart. He knows how to fight. He goes, and I think in this fight, he looks even better. I think he goes out there and he displays, you know, proper distance, proper fighting, proper kicks, punches, and I think he picks Pereira apart. And then, you know, that kind of had me thinking. I was already, look, I'm taking out Adesanya. Let's get that out of the way. I was already taking out Adesanya, but I read that, right? Then I watched the press conference today, and prior to this, Pereira's always been kind of like a quiet, reserved kind of guy, and dressed like, if you look at the press conference where he was fighting Sean Strickland, he came out t-shirt, jeans, you know, nothing too crazy. And in this press conference, he comes out with no t-shirt, but a leopard print sports coat, nice shiny boots. He comes out with like 3 gold chains with one big letter P on one of the chains. He's got a gold bracelet. He's got this nice watch. I mean, he comes out flashy as can be. And then he's up there talking shit. Now, granted, hey, I get it. You've got a knockout victory over the guy. You're confident. But that's not in your nature to be this talker, right? It's not in your nature that you've shown to be this flashy guy. What has you acting different all of a sudden? Are you too cocky? Are you overlooking Adesanya because you've already beat him twice? Once being by decision, once being by knockout, right? Are you thinking, I'll do the same thing here in MMA? It's smaller gloves than we used in kickboxing. I know I can knock him out. And Adesanya is a little bit more reserved this time, right? Normally he's a shit talker. And some people are like, oh, he's not talking shit because he lost by knockout. But he's almost got like that card in his back pocket that it's just like, just y'all wait and see, right? I'm gonna pull this out, just y'all wait and see. I'm excited for this fight, man. I think Adesanya has said that this fight is gonna be a war, that it's gonna remind people of a scary movie because it's gonna be bloody, a horror movie. He said it's gonna be bloody, right? It's gonna be nasty. Pereira's thinking, you know, he was saying at the press conference that Adesanya doesn't want to be here. He's afraid, kind of stuff like that. Obviously, we know Adesanya's not afraid. So I don't know, man. I just feel that Pereira's coming in too confident. I'm taking Israel Adesanya. I think Adesanya wins by decision or a late KO, TKO, right? Kind of similar to the Robert Whittaker, you know, 3rd, 4th round, something like that. I can see that, but I see him winning by decision. So I'm taking Adesanya to win this. So I'm taking, let's run through this, right? I'm taking Adesanya, Zhang Weili, Michael Chandler, Frankie Edgar, and Dan Hooker. Those are my picks for UFC 281 main card. Can't wait. Once again, guys, you got Helmke here on the Ham Podcast. Ham because I'm a fat boy, right? Then you got, follow us on Instagram, _H_A_M_podcast. And you got our Twitter, _Ham_podcast. Go to our YouTube page, the Ham Podcast. Follow, right? Subscribe on there. Comment. Look at the videos, right? Let us know what you want to hear. We got Sir Knight chiming in. Zhang Weili better win. I agree. Because if boring-ass Carla Esparza wins this one, oh boy. Oh boy. But like I said, everybody booed her at the press. There was 2 people that really got booed at the press conference. One, Carla Esparza, and the other was Alex Pereira. Those are the 2 fighters that got booed the most in New York today. So it's very interesting. because while they were in Vegas, Pereira was kind of being, cheered. But here in New York, he's getting booed. So very interesting there. But yes, I'm taking Adesanya to win. I'm taking Zhang Weili to win. I'm taking Frankie Edgar to win, Michael Chandler, and then Dan Hooker. Those are my picks for UFC 281. Hey, we went through it. We know what's going to happen, right? Again, if you wanted to see the link, if you want to read the article on the fraternities, it's here in the chat, or on the Titanic, the what they found by the Titanic. Go ahead and click on that link. It's here in the chat as well. Everybody, my time has come on this Wednesday night. It is 9:30, and you all have been phenomenal tonight. So happy to be here with y'all, right? Even Chris Pratt's excited, right? Look at that suspenseful look on his face. I love it. It's almost very, look how I set this up, right? The feng shui. They're running away from something, but into a wolf. I know. I'm good. Don't worry about it. Right? Sir Knight says, night, brother. Night as in night. Look at him. A little play on words, this guy. You're so smart. Good night, everybody. Thank y'all. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your weekend. Go Longhorns. Hope you beat TCU. UTSA. I hope you win this weekend. And then I hope the fighters that I picked win. Can't wait for Saturday night's fights. Until then, let's party hardy. Let's party hardy. See y'all later, everybody. Hope y'all have an amazing day. And guess what? It ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. All right? Just remember that. Y'all have a